the Know Your Gear podcast.
You had said there are, foundational pickups, and every other pickup is a tweak to somebody's personal taste. What are the 4 or 5 main types of pickups all the other pickups are based on? So like I said, so in the humbucker world, we're definitely going to go, like I said, with the PAF. That's where it all starts, right? They all kind of start with the PAF. And then, funny enough, think about this. It's kind of like, think of pickups like this. You have the very first humbucker, you have the PAF style pickup for the most part. When I say first, meaning this is the first one everybody kind of knows. Then I think of like pickups where it's like, now you have a hot rodded PAF. So think about this. So the hot rodded PAF becomes the next lineage. So almost like thinking like guitars, you have the Strat and then, or you have the Tele, then you have the Strat, then you have like the hot rodded Strat, right? It seems to go that way. So to me, like a JB is essentially a hot rodded PAF, right? In the concept of it, right? That's how I look at this. Like, this is like, if you said, hey, what's a really good pickup? I'm like, a PAF style pickup. Okay, I want something more than that. That's going to be like a JB. It's going to be a hot PAF pickup. Then you have the Super Distortion, which is by DiMarzio, and that's a different design because it is not only is it a ceramic magnet, which is very powerful. So again, high inductance, high magnetic energy. It's usually 43 gauge wire. So a lot smaller wire, lots more of it. So a lot resistance. It's like a lot. Think about the Quest. The Quest was, and this is true. Larry DiMarzio told me this. When he made that pickup, he didn't like his PAF style pickups. He was like, I want something different than this. And so he was like, I want to make something that he thinks is better than this. Better meaning something that you can throw in front of a Marshall or something and really get it to go. So it was like, use a big magnet, powerful magnet, ceramic, use a lot of wire, see where that takes you, and 2 rows of adjustable pour places, because he said he didn't understand why one side of the pickup wasn't adjustable, but one side was. That was weird. It's definitely a unique pickup. It's like the Bill Lawrence pickup, again, in the idea that it's a different animal out there. Then you have the TV Jones, which is a humbucker. That's a different animal again. So those are a totally different pickup style. There's a lot of variations. I like to talk about those 4 all the time. Then you're going to get into Alnico 8s, right? Pickups, or you get like the Invaders, and there's different ways to approach the pickup. But essentially what happens to me is, over years and years of testing hundreds and hundreds of pickups, as you guys know, at one time, I think I had 400 sets of pickups in the shop. It was getting ridiculously out of control. And, trying them all. And just like trying all the pedals, if anyone's tried, you don't have to try all the pickups, because if a lot of you have tried all the pedals, you kind of know. After a while, you're like, oh, okay. You start figuring out there's like a couple dozen pedals, like overdrives. There's a dozen overdrives, and that's really what it is. And then there's all these variants of that. That's how pickups work too. So those are the ones I kind of focus on for me. And then Chris Sean says, what about the wide range humbuckers? Sure. Like, yes. And again, but see, what's funny to me is, this is where I say we're getting off in the weeds. There's going to be weird pickups. There's all kinds of strange pickups, humbuckers, all kinds of cool stuff. Like the miniature humbuckers, right? Mini humbuckers and stuff. But to me, I'm just talking about the pickup that we all kind of know, which is the standard shape humbucker. So the reason I think like that is just like I said, after a while, I kind of learned, like, I love the JB. For me, I don't know about you guys, but like pedals did the same thing for me. I tried all these pedals, and where they really came down to is I like certain ones and the variants of those ones, and the pickups are the same way. I like certain pickups and the variants of them. Like, I love the JB. It's one of my favorite pickups. So, and on the DiMarzio side, I like the Tone Zone. And there's a lot of things that are similar about them, and only a few things that are different. Shield 400 says, where do active pickups fit? That would be probably that. I keep saying there's like 4 or 5. That would probably be the 4th or 5th one. So active pickups. And that would be, of course, now the EMGs, and then, of course, the Fluents, and then, of course, everybody doing copies of that. That is a different concept of pickup altogether, in the idea that an EMG I like using EMGs for example. There's a couple things that EMGs are kind of funny. People always think of EMGs as being hot, high output pickup, really powerful. It's the opposite. Very low magnetic field, very low output, right? The idea of an EMG is not to make metal. The idea of an EMG is essentially to, think about the Grateful Dead. It's like, how do I get a sound from a guitar to go through 150 feet of guitar cable, right? Across the stage, a giant stage. So what they did was, and more sustain, right? So think of it like David Gilmour. Think about their focus. Their focus is like David Gilmour, more sustain, really big, long, holding notes for a long time and sending signal down long distance of cables. So what EMG did essentially, which was smart, is they decreased the magnetic field. So there's less there's less magnetic field for the strings, so it's not slowing down the string. When your string's spinning, each time it passes the magnetic field, essentially it's being pulled down, so it slows down, right? Does that make sense? So you're losing sustain. Every time it spins, it's losing its energy, and especially since it's being pulled down. So if you can decrease that magnetic field, the string technically could spin longer and sustain longer. But the problem is, if you decrease the magnetic field, right, then you're getting less signal to the amp, and we don't like that. Whereas guitar players, I told you, everybody's focused on how do I throttle the amp, right? I want more going to the amp. So what EMG does is they do a weaker pickup. In other words, weaker meaning a smaller magnetic field. They do, they basically make a pickup that could sustain more, and then they run a preamp behind it or in it. It's kind of both. And then they shoot that signal using power, like a 9-volt battery. So that's why the amp thinks it's getting something hot signal, because it is. Essentially, it's no different in theory than taking a really weak pickup and throwing a booster pedal on it and shooting out to your amp and going, wow, this pickup has a lot of juice. It's really pushing the amp, but it's really the booster that's sending it to the amp. The pickup's not doing the thing. So that's how you think about it. So that's essentially why the EMGs work the way they do. And so Charles is saying EMGs are super clean. Exactly. This is the funny part about it. EMGs, it's a branding thing, right? EMGs just got adopted real quickly by the metal guys. And so you had Kerry King and you have, Zakk Wylde and you have Metallica, and they're all using EMGs, and your brain just goes, oh, EMGs, they must be aggressive for metal. But really what it was, yeah, it's aggressive because the preamp is sending a lot of power out, but the pickups sustain really well. That's why David Gilmour likes them. That's why it goes to the extremes with guitar players. So it's and then Shane says EMGs sound better than most people think. I absolutely agree. I think most people in a sound test with EMGs and passive pickups will constantly get them wrong. They'll get the concept wrong. But there is some truth to the EMGs being aggressive because of that boost, right? It gets aggressive. That's why I think some of the Fluent stuff is really cool, because some of the Fluent stuff is voiced in a way that kind of gives players more of taste of those active pickups. And then, so just to cap it off, a lot of people will confuse a lot of things with bass pickups. And when you think of bass pickups and active bass pickups, most bass guitars don't have active pickups. They have passive pickups with active preamps. So like a Bartolini is a passive pickup with an active preamp. So a lot of basses, like Fender basses, they don't have active pickups. They have passive pickups, and they run it through an active preamp. No different than running it through a preamp pedal. It's just built into the bass. So a lot of people, when they say active, this bass has active pickups, it's just a misnomer. We're saying it wrong. We're like, oh, does this bass have active pickups? No, it has passive pickups with an active preamp, but we just call it active. There is an exception. EMG does make active pickups for bass, so you can run an active pickup without the preamp, or it has to work in conjunction with the preamp. But in most cases, bass pickups are passive, and that's where again it gets confusing. Again, people are confusing active pickups versus active preamps. No, I don't know. I always tell people try an EMG. I always tell people pick up a guitar and play EMGs. They, for some reason, I feel like I have to have one guitar with EMGs in it. always. And that's how it works for me. And I pick it up and play it and I love it. But I like everything. I get like, that's cool for a while. And then I'm done. I'm do something else now. So if you like this clip and you'd like to watch another one, you can click right here. And if you want to see the entire episode of the podcast, you can click right there. As always, thank you for your time and know your gear.